They say recruiting fixes everything, and there's really only two scenarios when that's the case. The rest of the time, recruiting is actually overrated. Not to say that it's not important or it's not a vital part of running a brokerage, but it's not the end all be all. So let's think about, to use an analogy, you're in your yard cleaning up, doing some yard work, and you decide you're going to burn some branches and leaves and stuff rather than trying to take it down to the landfill or wherever. So you're trying to burn it and it's going kind of slow and you want to hurry up and just be done with it. So you decide to pour gasoline on the fire. Well, it's certainly going to make it burn, but if you're not ready and prepared, it may take the rest of your yard, maybe even your house up with it. So you wouldn't want to throw gasoline on a fire the same way you wouldn't want to try and recruit a whole bunch of agents unless you're ready for it. So when I say recruiting is overrated, except for two situations, the first situation is if you have no agents. Well, then the only thing you can do is recruit. On the other side, if you've got all of your systems and processes dialed in, then yes, you absolutely need to recruit. Focus all your time there because all of your systems and processes will take care of itself. So let's look at three specific areas that you should be addressing or looking at before you decide to go on a recruiting blitz. The first is, how many recruits could you actually bring on or onboard tomorrow? So a lot of times companies will send out 5,000 emails, 10,000 text messages, whatever it is, in the hopes that they're going to get some appointments. And the truth is that a lot of the messaging in those doesn't work, and these big blasts don't work for a whole host of reasons. And that's another topic for another day. But let's just say you sent out 5,000 emails and you got a 1% response rate. That would be 500 agents writing back saying, yes, I'd like to meet. That's a ridiculous number. You could not set up 500 appointments. So that right there is going to be sort of a knock against you because the agents are going to start talking with other agents and say, oh, I reached out to this company. They tried to recruit me, but then I never heard back from them. So that right there is problem number one. Number two, in that same space, is onboarding. A lot of companies think that they've got their onboarding process figured out and done. The truth is that they haven't onboarded an agent for 2 or 3 months. So they probably forgot a lot of it. They don't have a checklist anywhere. A lot of it's by memory and just people knowing what things need to happen, but it's not a process. And if there's no process, there can't be a system to help manage that process. So onboarding becomes really, really critical because when an agent comes on board, they're in the mindset of, well, let me learn something new. And I'm going to learn new systems. I'm going to learn new processes. And once probably 6 months goes by, they're now out of that mindset and they just want to get back to work and start doing stuff. So if you haven't fully onboarded them completely into your company in that first, I'd say probably 4 to 6 month window, then the chances of you getting to adopt stuff after that is really difficult. So you want to make sure that you've got your onboarding process documented, written down, and that you've got a system to manage that process. Obviously, 3 Data Pulse has that built in, but that's got to be number one. So before you throw gas on the fire, make sure that you've got something to contain the fire. The second thing you need to look at is your retention. I can remember, almost every broker I talk with says they don't have a retention problem, which is mathematically impossible. Somebody's got to have a retention problem because agents are switching companies all the time. So agents or brokers and managers don't think they have a retention problem. There was one company that we worked with, they had an office that had 40 agents in it, give or take, and maybe a little bit less. And they told us that we don't have a retention problem. We're just going to use 3 Data Pulse for recruiting. We're going to use it for whatever, but we don't have a retention problem. So we pull their roster from the MLS day one, and there's 75 agents on the roster. So we turn it over to them and say, hey, is there anything we need to change here? And they said, where did you get this list? And we said, well, we pulled it from the MLS today, just now, as a matter of fact. And they said, well, these agents are all gone. So we said, they're all gone. When did they leave? And they're like, oh, within the last 2 months. I said, oh, well, why did they leave? And said, oh, they all went to other companies. It's like, wait a minute, you lost almost half of your brokerage or your office in the last 2 months and you don't have a retention problem? We need to redefine what retention is and what a problem is, because losing half your agents in 2 months is a very, very serious problem. And a lot of times people don't understand what they should or need to be doing for retention. So when an agent does leave, it becomes really painful. It becomes painful because number one, there's a loss of revenue. But number two, there's a relationship there with somebody at the company, or at least there should be. And if it's not you as the broker owner, then it's a manager, a coach, somebody, something. There has to be a relationship somewhere with somebody. And that's painful to look at and it's painful to analyze. However, the good news about looking at yourself in the mirror is that nobody else is there to look at yourself with you. So you can have that honest, vulnerable look in the mirror and say, yeah, we lost a bunch of agents and there's probably some stuff that we could do different. And we need to start working on that stuff before we start recruiting. Because again, once you throw gas onto that fire, it goes out of control. And if you're not ready, it's a mess. So you want to make sure that you have a retention process, a retention strategy, or retention system in place. Obviously, 3 Data Pulse does that as well. The system looks at 25 different factors over millions and millions of data points to determine whether or not an agent is likely to leave, and then alerts you to that so you can do something about it. Usually about 104, 105 days before they leave. So you have more than 3 months to try and salvage the relationship and keep them there without, upending everything. Now, obviously you could track all of this manually, right? Like you could look at every single agent's active listing inventory, current under contracts, what they've closed recently, how they're attending different things, did they miss sessions, all of that kind of stuff. But at scale, that's impossible. So if you got 5 agents, you could obviously do this with a pen and paper and be fine. But more than 5 agents, you got to have a system that's going to do this for you and just let the system do the work and say, hey, you need to talk to this agent today because they're going to leave. If you don't talk to them, they're going to leave and that's going to hurt. From a dollars and cents standpoint, nationally, industry average is each agent represents about $10,000 in company dollar. So that means after you've paid the agent their split of the commission, each agent annually is about $10,000 to your company. So if you have, let's say 100 agents on average, that's about $10,000. That's about $1 million in company dollar a year that you've got coming in. So the question is, next year, what do you want to do? How do you want to grow? Where do you want to maybe make some capital investments? Or maybe where do you just want to do stuff for your family or for yourself? How much money is that? And how many more agents do we need to recruit? But then you've got to factor in the retention factor into that as well. So yeah, we're at 100 agents today, but if we lose 10 and I'm trying to get to 1.1 next year in company dollar, that means I've got to recruit 20 agents. I've got to recruit the 10 that I've lost plus the 10 new at 10,000 company dollar average. So it creates double work. Now, that's that side of things. On the other side is that retention is just recruiting your existing audience. So when you go on a recruiting appointment, you're going to get 1, maybe 2 shots to recruit an agent. But with retention, you can try recruiting on them every day. So imagine you've got your ideal agent. If you could clone them, you would. Practice your recruiting messaging on that agent. Hey, we've got this really cool CRM tool. Let me tell you about it. If that agent gets excited about it, is like, wow, that's really cool. I can't wait to try it. Well, then you go in your recruiting appointment and you use that exact same messaging. The same agent is going to be equally excited about it because you've dialed in that messaging. So retention becomes practice for recruiting and you can do it multiple times. You talk to, again, your ideal agent today and say, hey, we got this cool new thing. I want to show it to you. And then in 2 weeks, you can go back and redo that with different messaging because maybe it didn't work, didn't land, or you tried something different. You could do that multiple times to see what lands with them and what resonates that's going to get them excited that you can then take on the recruiting side of things. So retention becomes really valuable because it's doubling up your recruiting efforts. And if you're not doing it, then all of your recruiting becomes 2, 3, 4 times more difficult. Again, agents all talk. So if you have an agent that left for whatever reason, even if they make up the reason why they left, they're telling all the agents in the marketplace that exact same story. So you want to make sure that you keep your agents, keep them happy, keep them in-house before you go out and recruit. So you bring them on board, you keep them there, you keep them happy. The next phase is making them more successful. Now, successful is a little bit of a nuance because it's going to depend on each individual agent as to how they define success. So let's say you sit down with an agent and say, your take home last year was $100,000. That's fantastic. What do you want to do in the coming year? And the agent says, well, in the coming year, we've got some expenses that have gone up, kids' tuition's gone up, and we've been thinking about going on vacation or buying a boat or whatever. So I need to make 125. So, okay, fantastic. Let's talk about how we're going to get you to 125. Now, an agent may say, you know what? I killed myself last year. I made a ton of money. It was great, but I'm exhausted. I don't want another year like last year. I need more free time. So maybe they even want to scale back their business a little bit, have more free time, but that's how they're going to define success. So you need to sit with the agent, understand what a successful year for them will look like next year in very granular terms. And then you got to put together a plan. Now, I know what you're thinking is like, well, this sounds an awful lot like coaching. That's because it is. Coaching agents has got to be part of your value proposition because it ties in so closely with the retention piece and the recruiting piece as well. You have to do all three of those things to be successful. I've talked with brokers that have said, oh, well, I'm not going to coach agents because invariably they're not going to do what I say. And then they're going to leave and then they're going to blame the coach that they didn't do whatever. That's fine. That just means that you haven't learned how to coach. And that's okay because nobody was born knowing how to coach real estate agents. It's something that you learn along the way. And we teach brokers and managers all the time on how to coach their agents and how to make them successful based on their definition of success, but using and leveraging the brokerage's tools and systems because that's what the agent's paying for. So if we look at that in a dollars and cents term, every year for the last, I think we're going on 6 or 7 years now, we've looked at agents in 3 Data Pulse that have been coached and received coaching, agents that receive any coaching, just anything at all, once or more times per year, their business is outperforming the market by 30% every year. And it's been that exact same number for the last 6 or 7 years, however many years we've been doing this. So that means that it's absolutely worth your time to sit down and coach your agents. Now, not every agent's going to want to do that. And just like we talked about, not every agent's necessarily going to want to grow. But if you want to continue retaining agents, making your agents happy, recruiting new agents, making them successful, coaching's got to be part of it. And it's worth your while because they're going to go up by 30%. So that means instead of your average agent representing $10,000 in company dollar, they now represent $13,000 in company dollar. So instead of having to recruit 10 more agents next year, maybe you only have to recruit like a few, like 2 or 3. And then what happens is those agents all talk and they say, I had a banner year over with Philip at 3DP Realty and it was amazing and the coaching and this, that, and whatever. And then instead of having to go out and get agents, they start coming to you because they're hearing about the success of their peers at your company and now they want to join. All of this takes time, but what I've learned about time is it's going to keep going anyway, and it marches on, and you can either be ready in a year or you could be in the same place you are this year. So if next year you'd like to be up, more agents, companies growing, everybody's happy, healthy, and productive, start today. It's August. It's got plenty of time to do this, to get things in place for next year. Start today, get with 3 Data Pulse, call us, and we will help you put all of this in place and get you ready to hit the ground running before the 4th quarter of this year. So this way, by the time 2026 comes around, you're ahead of the game, you're already moving, and your processes and systems are already in place. Until next time.